Hazel Wolf with the Arizona Health Zone, University of Arizona Cooperative Extension, Apache and Navajo County. Today I'm going to share with you the community garden for the town of Springerville. This is a beautiful garden space sponsored by the town and the White Mountain Regional Medical Center Wellness Coalition. It's a place where community members can come together, work, and share in the rewards of that work, as well as learn new skills. The garden's been divided into two basic spaces: the individual boxes that people can rent for only $15 and the community space. The individual boxes have been designed so that some are up high to allow for our seniors and others that can't work low on the ground to access their beds. And then you can see metal and wooden boxes in the background, and those were designed by a young man for an Eagle Scout project. And the garden has liked them so well that they've started replacing some of the older beds with that new style. Throughout the garden there are fruit trees, and those are starting to really grow here and do quite well. Along the fences here we have grapes that are growing. We have flowers. I have to bring in our pollinators. Those are phlox and irises. The grapes are doing really well and they're very delicious. Along the back fence there are raspberries growing. Every gardener gets to choose whatever they want to put in their bed, and they come at their leisure to work their beds. And some people have nothing in them yet because the season here typically is just starting now. But we've had such a warm spell this year that some of us are already got lots of fresh stuff in our gardens. Here you can see kale and Swiss chard and carrots. As we go past the individual boxes, we enter the community space. And within this, you can see our beautiful greenhouse. And the greenhouse was funded by a USDA Rural Business Development grant and includes a hydroponic teaching lab where there's all different kinds of systems. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's not being utilized, but hopefully this fall. Right now, it's being used by the community cooperative to grow starts, and they'll be selling those in their market and also planting them into the ground. Here you see one of the big community boxes, and they transplanted in peppers here. And the green towers are actually water towers. And the water towers help protect the tomatoes. The water insulates the air around those tomatoes, and in case we do get a cold snap, that will protect them because they do not like to get too cold. Over here, this bed has been planted with seeds. I think it's a lot of beans in part, but I'm not sure. I didn't get that information. But you can see that some of them are just starting to come up. This bed over here is called a wicking bed, and this bed has a plastic liner in the bottom with PVC pipes that deliver water throughout the entire bottom of the bed, and then it's supposed to wick up into the soil. These are onion sets that you can see here, and then this is garlic. And this is one that they've been experimenting to see how well it works and trying to keep our water usage down. Here's a project poster that shows how that was built and the materials that they utilized. Here's the shed for the common shared tools. And then over here is a new bed that they just planted with transplants of broccoli and cabbage and cauliflower. And this system here, they took layers of different materials that started with dead wood, straws, manure, mushroom compost, and then topped with a really good, highly organic topsoil. And they've got broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage in this bed. They just are using a drip system on the top. But the idea is that those materials will decompose over time and continue to provide nutrients to those plants. In the center here is the strawberry and rhubarb bed with the rhubarb on the top and the strawberries below. Both of those plants are perennials and they come back every year and are usually one of the first things we see coming up in the garden. This here is the hoop house, and the hoop house typically would have plastic over it still, but because of this warm spell they've already taken that down and they've planted it with pumpkins that will be sold at the fall festival in October to help sustain this garden. When the gardeners take their produce home, any surplus is sold at the farmers market here in town to help sustain this garden, and then anything that's not sold is then donated to our local senior centers and food banks. It's very important that every garden be sustainable, and especially community gardens. Over here we have somebody who has done successive bed planting, and she's growing peas and greens, and you can see a lot of those things are starting to come in. And then she waited a couple weeks and she planted the next bed. And you can see we've just got a few of them coming in. And then in the final bed, you don't see really anything here growing yet, just a couple just barely sprouting. And this will allow her to have fresh vegetables throughout the entire season. Over here you see the composting and work area, and that we take any of the vegetation and straws and things like that out of the garden and compost it over here so that we can add those materials back into the soil. Here you can see the flowers are just starting to come in again to bring those pollinators, because without those pollinators you're not going to get produce. Here they're working on a new bed, and they did do an experiment with another wicking system, and these tubes would carry water. They have a float there, and then they would have a 5-gallon bucket that had a little basket that hung down into the water, and it wicked the water up into the pot. They weren't very happy with how well the plants did, so they've decided to put in another bed in here of just more traditional. I think they're going to do another lasagna bed. But I think that one of the problems with that was that when the plants were small and first transplanted in, the water wasn't wicking up enough into the soil. And so I would recommend that if they were going to try that again, that they don't have such deep pots, would be one of the suggestions. It's a beautiful space, and I look forward to sharing with you how it grows throughout the season. Have a great day, and check in the links for how you can grow in your garden.